Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming to this very special session. We very hurriedly arranged the meeting, and we gave you very short notice, but you all turned up. Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Well, this morning we have a really very, very special guest speaker who will enlighten us with his insights on the German economies, the Industry 4.0. As you know, the Industry 4.0 will determine to shape the global industrial scene. In fact, it is already shaping the industrial scene in the world. Of course, German industry is ahead of others, and therefore, I'm sure we, as always, we have a lot to learn from German experience. Well, the State Secretary, actually the Mr. Matthias Machnick is with us today, since he is accompanying the German federal, the government's President, Johannes Gauck, who is paying state visit to Korea. So he is accompanying him, so he has a very, very tight official schedule, but I appreciate very much you agreed to talk to us this morning. In fact, he has to hurriedly back to join the president's entourage immediately after his presentation. I hope he will have to entertain at least a couple of questions, but otherwise he will have to rush back to the president's entourage. Well, this meeting was arranged with the help of German embassy, and the ambassador this morning is, of course, is with President's the entourage. So we have Deputy Head of Mission of the German Embassy, Rolf Schuster, with us. As I'm sure many of you have met him before, because he has been in Korea since last June. And in fact, he served as a consul general in Saudi Arabia for a few years. And so he knows Korean companies and Korean activities in Saudi very well. Well, in any case, since we don't have much time, no further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Schuster to introduce the speaker this morning. Please join me in welcoming the Deputy Head of the
Chairman Dr. Sakung, Vice Minister Machnick, distinguished guests. First, I would like to say that I'm really very happy that Vice Minister Machnick could make it today to this illustrious forum, because I'm very happy always to participate in this forum, and he has always very, very interesting speakers, which give me a lot of insight. Usually, I hope the same applies today with Vice Minister Machnick. Vice Minister Machnick serves in a grand coalition government, I would say basically as the right hand of the Vice Chancellor. You may be aware that we have a government which is, to compare to Korea, formed by Senuri and NPAD. If you can translate this, by the Social Democratic Party of Vice Chancellor Gabriel, who is also heading the Ministry of Economy and Energy, and Chancellor Merkel, as you are well aware. Vice Minister and State Secretary Machnick is an old hand in government. He has served as a Minister for Economy of the Free State of Thuringia before becoming the Vice Minister in the Ministry of Economy in Berlin. And he was also Vice Minister and State Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, etc., etc. But I think the most interesting thing for me personally was his experience in another area, because I think he's really a very powerful strategist. Because as you remember, in the year 1998 there were general elections where after 16 years in power, Chancellor Helmut Kohl was defeated, and the gentleman who was running the election campaign for the Social Democratic Party was Vice Minister Machnik. So I think, without any further comment, I think now you know who is talking to you. Thank you very much. And
yeah, dear Mr. Sakong, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. For me, it's a quite unusual time because this is 7:30 in the morning here. In Germany, it's now 12:30 in the night, so it's quite a difference. But I do my best just to give you some impressions of what we are doing on Industry 4.0. Let me say at the beginning, we are standing at a point where we know we are facing the most radical change in our economic development, because digitalization will change the economy very radically. This is true for business models, this is true for productivity, this is true for worker skills, this is true for R&D and innovations. So this is a huge challenge for the economy. Therefore, when we talk about digitalization, some say this is the fourth industrial revolution we are now facing. And of course, this fourth industrial revolution is a challenge because at the end, countries like Korea and Germany will be only competitive if we are able to make the digitalization work. Because this is the most important questions for the next year. And what does Industry 4.0 mean? Industry 4.0 means the merging of production technology and information technology. Industry 4.0 also describes a new level of organization of value change. In Industry 4.0, people, machines, plants, logistics, and products communicate and cooperate directly with each other. Production and logistics processes between companies in the same value chain are smartly connected in order to make production processes between companies even more efficient and flexible. From an economic perspective, we in Germany expect Industry 4.0 to generate more than 30 billion euros of increased economic growth a year in the medium term. This growth results from the fact that all the components are connected, which means that decisions can be taken in real time. The smart new value chains include not just the production process, but all phases of the product's life cycle. From concept to development, manufacturing, use, maintenance, and on to recycling. Networking in this way will firstly make it possible to take account of and meet individual client needs. From the concept for production, use, through recycling, including the related services. Customized manufacturing and maintenance of products could become the new standard. Despite this customization, networking, companies and skills can also lead to reduction in costs. This is because production processes can be steered between companies in a way that raises efficiency and productivity. Productivity is expected to increase by 30%. Costs could fall by 2.6% per year. By networking within a specific value chain, a company will be able to react to the fact that particular raw materials are available or need to be replaced at an early stage. Overall, production processes can be steered in a way that conserves resources and energy. New production processes play a role in this time. Take 3D printing, for example. Currently, machine components have to be milled out from pieces of metal. By using 3D printing, however, these components can be built up layer upon layer. This can mean up to 90% less resources are needed. But the digitalization and networking of industrial manufacturing processes will not merely change value chain. It will also create new business models, for example, in terms of managing and processing the sheer volume of data, as well as new prospects for employees. If you look at Uber or Airbnb, Uber is a company with the world taxi company without having a taxi. Airbnb is the biggest hotel without having one hotel. So this shows what kind of, let's say, change of business models we are confronted with. German industry is the backbone of the German economy, and it's currently enjoying a worldwide success, despite Volkswagen, I have to say. It is built on a solid foundation. Some 50 million jobs depend directly and indirectly on the goods production sector. The digitalization of industrial production processes and the emerging of disruptive technologies will blur the boundaries between traditional sectors. Value chains will change and global market shares will shift. For a strong manufacturing country like Germany, the digitalization of economy is therefore a key policy issue for the next years. This is equally true of companies, employees, consumers, and policymakers. I believe the successful implementation of Industry 4.0 will depend on 6 factors. First, we need a well-developed digital infrastructure. Over the next years, the amount of data that is exchanged will increase exponentially. Second, the number of connected devices will drastically increase as digitalization and the networking of production process continues. There are currently 3 billion connected devices around the world. Only in 7 years from now, this figure will reach 25 billion. Third, we need to achieve a high degree of openness to digital solution in company management, in the workforce, and in the general public. New business models and work patterns can only be successful introduced if there is a consensus between companies and their employees. Fourth, we must reach out to and mobilize our SME across the board. Industry 4.0 must reach the companies in the regions, become a firm element of their business model. To be very honest, we had some data which are saying at the moment 70% of the small and medium-sized companies in Germany say digitalization is not a top priority. It's not a top priority. So we have to work on to make them clear that their existence and their competitiveness will depend on going into the digital world. Fifthly, the level of training among our employees will play a major role. Our dual system of vocational training will have to keep pace with the new challenges faced. And we also need to make sure that people whose experience becomes outdated are given the extra training they need. Or let me say in the following words, we will have the following development. In 5 years, there will be job descriptions where we not even have a name for it today. So this will be a huge change, and we have to look that education and vocational training goes along with this. Lastly, we must press ahead with the international cooperation. As a major exporter and supplier of factory equipment to companies around the world, we need international cooperation and coordinated solutions, especially regarding standards, with leading industrial regions in Europe, North America, and Asia. We have already started acting on this. We have begun to expand the relevant infrastructure as a part of the digital agenda. In addition, the relaunch of the National Industry 4.0 platform in April has ensured that government, commerce, academia, trade unions will all pull in the same direction. This is the only way in which we can cover all the aspects of Industry 4.0, from technical issues regarding standards to question of the right legal framework, data security in connected system, and needs-based training for the workforce. The platform aims to develop a common understanding of Industry 4.0, to draft recommendations for the various fields of action, and to present successful the examples of Industry 4.0. And on the summit we are having in November, we are going to present about 300 test cases how to do this, how to connect the digital and the analog world, and to show how Industry 4.0 might work. One key issue is the security of data, of interconnected systems. This is particularly a challenge for small and medium-sized companies. Let me say it in this way. If small and medium-sized companies can't be sure that their data is secure, they are not going to go the way into the digital economy. Because of a very simple reason. So far, the USP, the knowledge, the know-how of the companies might be in the machine. Digitalization means it will change, it will go into the digital world, so you have to be sure that your data are secure, otherwise you are not going to go this way because you might fear that you are losing your USP or your competitive. We try, therefore, to develop a short set of guidelines for SMEs that will help them to implement IT security across the company. Additionally, we will also develop specifications on the skills needed by members of the workforce who will apply IT security at their companies. The issue of standards will also be of key importance, as these are needed for machines to be able to communicate with one another. We will only be able to harness the potential of Industry 4.0, the idea of customized production, the potential for reducing costs and the opportunities for new fields of business, if all those components and companies involved become digitally integrated along the value chain. Otherwise, it's not going to work. In a digitalized value chain, individual parts know what they are, how they need to be processed, where they belong, and can coordinate with the production systems. The plant decides by itself, what work is to be undertaken in what time frame, and assigns priorities accordingly. Standards enable communication to take place with Industry 4.0. They decide who can speak with whom and who is understood. At an international level, standards also determine who will supply equipment to factories around the world, for example. In order for Industry 4.0 to be implemented in Germany, industry, as soon as possible, we need a standardization process that is based on a consensus and supports research and development. The Industry 4.0 sets out to establish such a process. The first proposal for a reference architecture model is called RAMI 4.0, So reference, architecture, model, industry 4.0. We need to check the extent to which they are compatible with RAMI 4.0 by other countries, because we need an international standard how to communicate, because it's not a success if we have a German standard in a globalized, digitalized economy. We need a global standard, and therefore we're working together, for example, with the ICC, so the Industrial Internet Forum in the US. So we are working very close together, trying to build up these kind of standards. A third step, recommendation for preferred solutions will be developed. The standardization working group that is part of the Industry 4.0 platform will pay particular attention to minimize the numbers of standards to be used. Finally, the platform will be used for coordinating activities in the area of standardization at national level. We are looking at the moment to further international partnerships in the area of Industry 4.0. It serves our mutual advantage, and if companies from both countries express an interest in cooperation on Industry 4.0. And therefore, of course, we also want cooperation with the Korean companies. But to be very clear, this must be a process driven by the companies. We have to bring companies together, and let's say governments can help to make this contact work and can look what kind of, let's say, international activities we can build up to maybe in the standardization process, and how we can build up, let's say, a framework for a global digital economy. Some 95% of German industrial companies state that digital has an impact on their business and work process. However, only 3% today believe that they have reached their full digital potential. So what I say with this number, there's a lot of work to do. Let me make a last remark. And we have also to look on what kind of digitalization we are going to go. Because there are two different approaches on digitalization. One, I call it the American way of digitalization. That is a platform-driven digitalization approach. And there's another one, and that is very important for Korea and Germany. This is a production-orientated digitalization process. And we have to find a balance between these two approaches, because some tend to say platforms are more important than production, and the real value is going to be created no longer in the production sector, but it's in the digital sector. So we have to find, let's say, a balance between these two sectors, and we have to look for one thing. Do we have a competition framework where both elements can work together? Because as I said on Uber and others, these new business models, they show the following: they are disruptive because they don't have to take the rules others have to take. That's why disruptors, and therefore we have to look for a framework. We have to look for competition rules that both elements, platforms and production, have an opportunity in the future. Coming to the end, I think this is a huge challenge, but also a huge opportunity. Industry 4.0 will bring new forms of production on the way. It will link office and shop floor. It will also link the logistics and other parts. And therefore, it's a huge opportunity. But also, we have to look for the challenges on infrastructure, on qualifications, and so on. And we have to look for international partnership. And maybe this event might help that Korea and Germany can work on this very important field together, because there are no solutions that we can do on a national level. We need international solutions. And therefore, I think it's good if a country like Korea, with with big companies, good skilled employees, and German companies can work together and show how we go the way into the digital future. Thank you.
Expertise in this area, and actually I learned a great deal from your presentation, although I don't understand everything you said. I wish we had more industrial executives and managers here. I do know that though the Industry 4.0 is the most critical factor for keeping nations the industrial competitiveness. You said that about some 95% of German industrial companies state that digitization has an impact on their business and work processes. And only 3% believe that they have reached the full digital potential. I wonder what is the percentage for Korean firms? I really would like to see Korean companies and managers pay attention to this. The sooner, the better. And this is really revolution. And if we miss out the trend, and we will lose out. That's for very sure. And according to McKinsey, actually, I got hold of this paper yesterday. It says McKinsey surveyed 300 manufacturing leaders in January 2015. Only 48% of manufacturers consider themselves ready for Industry 4.0. 78% of suppliers say they are prepared. In other words, suppliers are already well ahead of manufacturers. And even the manufacturers, according to their survey, about 48%, almost 50%. So I just hope Korean companies take on the bandwagon, otherwise they will lose out. Well, with this, I'm sure the Mr. Machnik entertain any questions and comments from the floor. Is not the, of course, your comments and questions won't be only confined to this Industry 4.0 and then the labor issues, other issues, policy issues as well. Okay, Dr. Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Machin. You really brought up the subject, which is an eye-opener. But you pointed out this mismatch between the industries recognizing the needs, yet so far behind. Going further beyond that, you also mentioned a very interesting comment, that is, most of the jobs 5 years from now are the kind of jobs we do not even have a description. Now, this poses a problem for the mankind as a whole. How do we prepare for this rushing of the change and to prepare for it? For example, children, when they start education and the parents look at what to teach, what for them to learn, how do we do the planning if the world changes so rapidly? And secondly, are human capabilities capable of adapting or changing ourselves to this kind of a trend? Or is there going to be a dichotomy between the needs and our inherent ability of mankind to cope with it? What do you think about the question? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting, it's an economic and a philosophical question. Yeah, it is. It is. And let me start with the following. The biggest problem at the moment, that's also true for Germany, we don't have a common understanding what digitalization means. Different people are talking about different things. Some are talking about, when they talk about digitalization, they are talking about infrastructure investments, having broadband. Others are talking about the production side. Others are talking about, let's say, R&D side. So what we have to make, first of all, what does digitalization mean and what does it mean for industrial processes? And I try to point this out because that is very, very important to get to this kind of understanding. The second thing is, yes, we need something, what I would call digital education. Every one of us is going to learn when we go to school, we learn to write and to read. And to be very sure, in the 21st century, to be, let's say, also have a digital education will be as important as writing and reading. So yeah, we have to implement this into our whole schooling system, also in our vocational training system. That's very sure. Third, you are absolutely right. If you look at what is the impact on industry or digitalization, there are a couple of studies coming from MIT. And MIT is not known being, let's say, reluctant on technology development. But what they say is, it's not clear yet if we have a positive or a negative employment rate. So we don't know yet. We don't know yet. Because let's say the increase of productivity can also lead to the following: a couple of employees are no longer needed. So we have to look. That's the reason why I said, at the end, it's very important that you have a consensus between, let's say, the management side and also the employee side. Otherwise, you will not be able to make digital industry 4.0 to a real success in your company. So that's what we have to do, and we have to, let's say, begin with this process now, because it's not a question of, let's say, seconds or days. It will be a decade or maybe 2 decades of a very, let's say, transformation of our economy. And we have to, let's say, we have to start early and bring all those together who are part of the game. That means science. That means companies. That means also labor unions. And we have to look for the following. We have to build up learning partnerships. Because to be very honest, we don't understand every thing about digitalization. I think no one does. Not even Google or Amazon and others. So we have to build up learning partnerships between academia, companies, and policies. That is all. That is the approach we are having in Germany with our platform Industry 4.0. That's one. And the second thing that's also very important. At the beginning of the process, we have to make clear there will be a conflict on targets, because on the company side there will be a target in this way. Others will have a certain different. Will look for other targets. So we have to also see what kind of target conflicts we are going to get and how we can solve that. I think that's very important for the process as a whole.
Thank you. We have a press call. Yeah, and 질문 있으시면 yes. Yeah. 저기 마이크로폰 저기.
그 중요성을 말씀하시면서
조금 잠깐만. 몇 번이에요?
What channel is it? 1 or
3번인가?
channel 1 or? No. Okay, try.
디지털
Okay, now.
디지털화의 중요성을 말씀하시면서 기업뿐만이 아니라 노동계, 학계, 많은 참여자들이 파트너십을 구축해야 된다고 말씀을 하셨는데, 그 한국을 포함해서 모든 국가들에서 저항이 발생할 걸로 예상하는데, 그런 거를 해결할 수 있는 정책자들의 역할이라던가 역할은 어떤 것이 있는지 좀 말씀을 듣고 싶습니다.
That's very interesting. If you are going to ask, you are a young woman, You are a young woman. If you are going to ask young people what they think about a tool like this, they will say, oh, that is wonderful, I need it, I will use it every day. 10 years ago, we didn't have this kind of device. Smartphones are 10 years old, less than 10 years old. And now we have millions of smartphones. So why I'm saying this, there is a process. We are in a process of digitalization in different fields. This is true for my private life, but this is also true for my work. If you go to your office, especially for the media, you can't work without your PC, without your broadband internet, and all this stuff. So we are in the middle of a process. So now the process is coming also to the production side. Exactly. And that will be in the next step. And now we have to look for the following, I totally agree, how to create acceptance. But it's true, there are Umfragen, have Sie mal mit Umfragen? Polls, yeah, thank you. There are polls in Germany, saying the following. People like their smartphone. If they say, okay, what do you think about digitalization in your company, there is a kind of reluctance because they don't know what it means. And I give you some ideas. This will mean we need a new consensus for working time. Okay, why? If you look at, let's certain sectors, 18% im Handel, in the trade sector in Germany, is coming from platforms. And it's growing and growing and growing. And when do people go on the platform to look for certain things? When is it? Saturday and Sunday. And now those people who have a company outside, they say, my company is closed on Sunday. So to have let's say, to be part of the competition, I have also to close on Sunday. So we will look for new. This is a small example for we need a new approach, let's say, on, working time framework. Or qualification, the same. Okay, 50 years ago, when you studied or learned a job, and you were an intelligent person, you knew, okay, with this education, I can work all my life through till I get 65, then I'm leaving my job. This game is over. Every 2, 3, or 4 years, qualifications are changing radically, and this is true by digitalization. This will lead to absolutely new qualifications that has to be learned. Although you have a degree from university or from wheresoever. So this will change a lot, and as I said, we have to look for acceptance, and therefore I'm going to say we have to build up a new consensus between different partners, companies, trade unions, policymakers, academia. We have to build up a new consensus to make this transformation work.
Yeah. Herr Staatssekretär Machnik, I think you had brought here a lot of contribution to understand the Industry 4.0. And one of the major contribution to us is today your notification on the two different approaches to digitalization. The American way of platform-driven approach and the production-driven approach that Korea and Germany should follow. And we have actually the same problem as Germany, that we had two strong bases of hardware industry that has driven the economic growth so far. And we should change this model. And I can hardly understand how to make a kind of a good harmony between the platform-driven approach that is in effect forcing us to change. For example, Google, Facebook, Apple, with which Samsung industry has a lot of trouble right now. They just had changed the platform. That means they are imposing us new rule of game. So you should play on this ground, not the precision of the technology for the manufacturing, but just how to communicate with others. So this is, as you told, the platform-driven approach. So how can the country like Korea and Germany follow accepting this platform-driven approach, follow this new Industry 4.0 with the existence and holding the strong hardware industry basis? And the second question, I have one more question. That is different from Germany. Korea has developed with a strong hegemony of a big corporation, the so-called chaebol, or as you know, international term, 자이밭. And in Germany, the locationally evenly distributed small to medium industry has led the whole industry, and that made the German industry strong and harmonious. And how to develop Korea in this new stage of Industry 4.0 with a good cooperation with the of the big corporation with the SMEs. That is second.
Yeah, thank you. The question of what kind of approach will be at the end successful, an industry or platform-driven approach? This is a very, very important question for companies like, or for countries like Germany and Korea. Mm-hmm. And let me start with the following. Germany, and that is maybe is an interesting message. We are today a digitalized economy, because in parts, also in the production, we have digitalized processes. But now, what's the new step? The new step is that we are connecting office and shop floor, and that we are connecting everything with everything. The machine with the products that's coming out of this. And now, what's the outcome of this? Data. And now the question is, that's very important. Who is the owner of the data? Who's the owner of the data? Does the data go to the platforms? And are the platforms creating out of this data new services or whatsoever? Or does the data belong to the companies, and the companies themselves are creating new services? Give you one idea. You all know ThyssenKrupp. One product of ThyssenKrupp is an elevator. And this elevator might be somewhere here in Seoul. And now digitalization will mean 4 weeks before this elevator has a problem because a certain device is no longer working, the elevator is going to tell you in 4 weeks there's a problem. There's a problem. And you need this device and you need these kind of services to fix this. Okay. And now the question is, who is the owner? There are 3 options. One, the owner of the data is ThyssenKrupp. If they are the owner, they can build up a service chain. They can build up a service chain and do the business. And that will lead at the end to the following. The balance between services and production and the outcome, the profit out of this, will change. The service sector, compared to the production sector, will grow. So that's one choice. The second choice is the data belongs to the hotel. And now the hotel is going to say, okay, I'm looking for the service I need. And the third one is going to Facebook, Google, or other platform and say, okay, that's my data, and I'm going to make the business. I'm going to make the business. So, and this very simple shows this decision is not taken yet. It's not taken. So we have to look, that's why I'm saying, we have to look for a framework. What kind of framework are we going to build up that we have, let's say, a competition? I want competition between platform-driven approach and industry-driven approach. So that's very important. So who belongs, who's the owner of the data, so to say? That is a key question for certain business models. Second thing is SMEs. Okay, if you look to the US, and everyone is going to Silicon Valley, what do you see there? The whole digitalization process was a process that was done and pushed forward by startups. If you look at, let's say, 20 years ago, if you look at the ranking of American companies, who was on top, and you compare it with today, those who were on the top 20 years ago are no longer on the list. And others didn't even exist. So there's a huge dynamic coming out of small and medium-sized startups. Or let me bring it to this thesis. Without creating startups, you are not able to take the challenge of digitalization. And therefore, we in Germany are working very hard on this, building up, let's say, a new culture of new companies. So, and we are saying, young people, it's not, let's say, the highest career when you go to in the public sector. It might be more interesting to go into the private sector and build your own company. And we have Berlin today is the startup city in Germany. And that was not true 10 years ago. It's not true. So there are a lot of young companies, and now they have one problem. We have a very good support also in finance if they are for seed, but not for growth. And now we're working, okay, if you have a company who is, let's say, has a new product, and they can go to the market, how can they grow? Although that's very important, but the message is very clear. The huge innovations in the digital economy is done by small and medium-sized company, and so we have to look for a culture of innovation and a culture of startups, a culture of new ideas, and this is, I have to say, it's not coming out of the big companies. It's not. It's not.
Okay. Yes, last.
Last.
Yeah, last. Yeah, okay, yes.
According to your opinion, Dr. Martin.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Where is it? Here.
Yeah.
I think then what is the large companies' role in the economy?
What is? Say it again.
Large company, big company.
Large companies' role in the economy. In your logic, in the startup only can give some kind of progress in the digitalization. In that case, what is the large company's role in that area?
The rollout. The
Rollout.
rollout of new ideas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The rollout. This is true.
Then what kind of rollout is possible?
Okay, Samsung, a couple of years ago, we have only one smartphone. That was Apple. Today we have Samsung, so some parts are they are bringing competition on certain tools into the market. And they have, let's say, they have the financial ability to make huge investments. Give you one idea. We are all talking about that we need broadband. Because if we have huge amount of data, we need infrastructure. And I don't know no startup who is able to build up the infrastructure. They are not. Or bringing, let's say, certain solution into a bigger portfolio like machinery. This is not the way what they can do. So big companies must be, let's say, investor. They must be accelerator. They must be incubators for certain things.
Let me ask you,
Yeah.
Last question, real last question. What is the role of labor union in this process? Because you, with the digitalization, you bring in robotics and all new software, which will tend to save labor.
Yeah,
so
that's
in this process, what is the role of labor union and how
let
you
me-
deal with it?
Let me give you one example. In the 80s were the decade when the personal computer came to the companies. In Germany, at the beginning of the 80s, the labor unions, they rejected the revolution done by the PC. They understood to a certain point that they can't stop this process. 30 years later, when we talk about digitalization, the approach of the labor union is totally different. They know this is going to come. And at the beginning of this process, they are going to talk with us. What do we have to do to be one, to make it economic work, but also look, what does it mean for our employees, for their skills, for their incomes, and so on. So they are very, very important to build up what is said by this young woman, how to create a consensus in the companies. You need them to build up a consensus because there will be a radical change also for the employees. So they are, to my mind, they are somehow a kind of co-management, because good trade unions are co-manager in a good way. Yeah, that's true. Because sometimes they know more about the real process of production in the companies than the management does. That's also true. And if you can help, if they can help to bring these skills in to the production process, this is very helpful. This is very helpful, and that is a win-win situation. This is a win situation for the employees. It's also a win situation for the companies because productivity is going to grow. So let's look for their skills of co-management in this process. So that's my answer.
Okay, well, we have to let him go, and he has to join the presidential entourage. I appreciate very much for your presentation, and I wish we had many policymakers here. And I really appeal to the press corps there. As Korea as a society, we should pay more attention to this Industry 4.0 and big data.
True.
Big data, because of digitalization and semiconductor revolution, data are there. But if we are wise enough to utilize them, we can do so many new things which we never dreamed of. So I just hope Korea as a society pay more attention to this issue, and at the government level and the companies level. And if the sooner the better, and we should make every effort in this one. So I just
It was a pleasure to see you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Good to
very
see
much.
you.
Please join me in thanking you.